You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Prepared life.
That's what you
I don't know. I feel like this mic is a skyscraper. Okay.
Good.
I don't know. I don't remember where it goes.
That's perfect.
Is it?
That's perfect right there.
That's where it goes.
And we're in. We're loading up. We are booked. We're ready to go. Here we go. This is the podcast.
Somebody's going to silence their phone.
I did. It's
Yeah?
the podcast for the universe.
Guess what?
What?
I did too.
That was our old tagline. If you're a
Podcast
brand new
for the
listener,
universe.
that was the old tagline back in the day. It's still applicable. We are still podcasting for the universe. So it's been a week, babe.
A whole week?
Just for us. Here's tea time.
What's your...
Shout out to Mike Wade. Tea time Tuesday. It's not Tuesday.
It's Wednesday.
Anyways, Mike, you get the joke. The creation of 1,000 forests is in one acorn. That's Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Ralph Waldo. I have a Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Do you got one on yours?
Mm-hmm.
What's yours?
Earth laughs in flowers.
Nice. Nice. Does it cry in rain?
I think so.
What
Well, my other one's Emily Dickinson, so I don't know.
You have two on there?
I have 2 tea bags.
Oh, that's right. I forget what kind of gal you are. That was some innuendo. We haven't done innuendos in a long time.
Hey, that was quite bold of you.
Craig's cleaning up his act around here.
Yeah, I wasn't very clean.
No, it was not.
It was about as clean as my glasses.
Right?
Did that green thing stay over here, or did it get taken down?
It's in there. Let me grab it.
Is it where? Where are you getting up?
It's just there.
It's just there? Is this going to be like our new thing that you clean my glasses during the podcast? Because if
You're
I
cleaning
can't...
them now.
Oh, this isn't the green one.
That's the one I used last time.
I know. I had one up here. I'll have to get it back up here. It's funny. If I can't see, I can't talk. If I have a smudge on my glasses, then I'm like, I need to see to talk. I need to turn down the radio.
Like if I close my eyes?
Don't tie my hands up. You're being funny right now, but I'm serious.
If you were only listening.
You know, what do you do?
Craig's eyes were closed and he wasn't talking.
He was trying. What do you do in the car when all of a sudden, like, you have to pay attention, like really hard, not just like your normal pay attention, like
when
there's
it's go
something
time in
coming
the
up,
car?
or like maybe, you know, you don't get lost, but if you're like in a weird place, you need your exit, or
Yeah.
it's like,
Everybody be quiet.
yeah,
We got to pay attention. Radio gets shut down.
yeah.
All
So it's the same.
attention goes through
See,
the eyes.
so it's kind of the same thing. It's like if there's too much sound, then I can't see. And if I can't see, I can't talk.
Yeah.
And I squint my eyes to see better when I'm trying to hear something. Look at me. It's like when you're trying to hear, you're like,
Hold on.
you squint to see better. You're like,
Isn't that funny? Our bodies are so fascinating.
I think we're just like all these cross circuits going on. Thank you. I'll put this by use. Oh, wow. That one works really well. That doesn't have all. Can you wash those?
Probably.
I haven't washed them because I'm afraid of like ruining their cleaning capability. And I think I'm just like smearing.
Do they come from Hogwarts? What's the...
I don't know.
It's just a piece of fabric.
How many years have I had glasses?
Right? I don't know.
I'm new to the glasses
2
game.
years, 3 years?
Yeah.
Where are we at?
I don't think it's been that long.
Speaking of glasses, you got to go get your prescription redone.
I know.
Right? We got to go back.
Yeah.
Marty, we have to go back.
Back where? Back to the future. Did I do it right?
I think so.
I think pretty close. Okay. So we need glasses. Steph needs
Check.
to wash or just pitch by now her really dirty glass cleaners.
Yeah. Okay, everything's recording. I
Are we
think we're
recording?
actually starting the podcast now.
I thought we were. I was trying to give riveting information.
I'm nervous about this episode.
Why?
Remember what we were going to talk about?
I don't.
Oh, you don't?
No.
So I can just pick anything.
Shit.
I can just randomly pick whatever. Or I could drag it out for another 15
You
minutes,
could.
making you really uncomfortable.
You could. I've got a queasy belly, so make it as uncomfortable as the podcast you want to be long.
Yeah.
It could be a 15-minute podcast. Like, I'm done. I don't feel so great.
The bathroom's directly across the hall, so we'll just holler back and forth while you're in the bathroom.
In between.
Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't do that.
No, I was going to talk about the whole Will Smith, Chris Rock debacle.
How could I forget?
Right. And it is Wednesday, and that happened on Sunday, so it's 3-4 days out.
Okay.
And by the time this episode is airing, it'll be a week out.
Okay.
And
What day is this coming out?
This will be next week. Next Monday.
Week? Next Monday?
Yeah.
I have to look.
So. Oh, this is April something. This will be April.
It'll be. Oh, it's going to be past the new moon. It'll be April 4th.
Nice.
That this comes out.
Well, if everything goes.
Hi, happy April 4th. I hope your new moon was amazing. If everything goes what?
Well planned.
Well, regardless, the new moon will be past. I hope it was great. I hope that your emotional body was taken care of and you had a chance to look at your wounded healer, or since it's an Aries, your wounded warrior. Dun, dun, dun. Okay.
As Aries, you got to tell me all them. One of these episodes, this is something I'd like to do, is we don't need to go like super deep into astrology.
Okay, good. I'm still learning.
I know next to nothing about just the 12 astrological signs.
Okay.
I know of them.
Okay.
But I don't know much about any of them. I couldn't name all 12.
Okay.
If I hear one, I'm like, yep, that's one.
Okay.
When is it? I don't have a clue. What is it? Even better question, right?
Okay.
No idea. So maybe we can just do the basic 12 and you can just give us some information about this is when it is. This is kind of typical things, like Pisces, for example, is water and fish and so on and so forth. And
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it'll probably be a few minutes though. Like
I'm just
to
saying
go
in the
through
future.
them all.
That's a future episode.
I know, but I mean like the future episode is
It'd be a fun episode to do.
You're okay with I'm just saying it'll take up some time to go through all 12.
I think we have.
I just didn't know if you were like giving me like a 5-10 minute block of like, here, we'll hear about your stuff this amount of time, or like, or if you just are realizing this would likely be a whole astrological episode.
Yeah, it would be awesome.
Okay.
I would love to learn about the 12 astrological
would you really?
signs. Absolutely.
A beginner's episode.
Exactly.
A little introduction.
Yeah, because when I'm doing all this moon work, and I'm understanding some of the concepts you've taught me, like when it's transitioning through the houses, right, during its phases, I have no idea what it means, other than it does it. Yeah. And then I'm just excited when Pisces come up, because that's what I am, right? So I don't have any context for anything else. So I know Gemini has something to do with twins. Taurus is the bull. Scorpio's a crab. No? Lizard?
Scorpio is the scorpion.
From Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, that would be a fun episode.
Yeah, okay. If you want to.
I do.
I'm down for that.
I'm dead serious.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been meaning to ask you.
Oh, really? Put on the to-do list. Ooh, that's exciting and nerve-wracking. I'm really, really excited and also like...
it's one of those things where you take your time and when you're ready, then that's the episode we'll do that night.
True.
So back to the episode that we're on, this episode. I'm going to talk about it, even though...
Are you going to?
By the time this airs, it's going to be old news. Everybody's going to have heard about it. It's not about... This isn't like, we got to hurry up and get this podcast out so people can hear our take on...
I think your take's really
what happened.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about what it did for me, right? My experience of it and what came up for me. And there's going to be some things here's a big caveat at the beginning. There's going to be some assumptions that I make because I'm talking about my experience. So I'm going to be making some assumptions about the whole thing that are just my assumptions. They're not based in fact. I've done next to no Googling. I know more about Will Smith than I do Chris Rock. I'm a bigger fan of Will. Anyways, there's going to be some assumptions. So if you're thinking that this is going to be all factual based stuff, it's not. It's Craig's experience of what took place that night in Hollywood. Dun, dun,
I'm
dun.
really happy to hear about your experience and that you're speaking it. I think it was such something that needs to be heard.
Okay.
And light shed. So I'm excited. Yeah.
So if you aren't familiar by this time, a week out, the Oscars were last Sunday. And what's really, really hilarious, actually, there's a bunch that's kind of funny about this. The Oscars used to be a very big deal to me. They used to be a major priority. I knew when they were, first off. I had no idea that they were on when they were on this year. But typically I know when they are. I know everybody that's nominated. I've seen all the movies that are nominated for Best Picture. I'm just immersed in the culture of film to the point where it's obsessive.
You even like knew the movies that would be nominated before the nominations came out.
Yeah. I mean, you could watch a movie and be like, that one's getting nominated.
You like if that was a Las Vegas bet thing, I would totally be like, what's Craig say?
Right.
And go with that.
And it was just really important in my house growing up, and I continued that. Movies were a big deal. Not so much anymore. I still appreciate them. I still like watching good movies, but it's not something that is that important to me anymore. But if you need context for how important it was to me, think about the person that is obsessed with a sport, football, basketball,
It's the Super Bowl for the diehards.
Yeah, the Oscars were my Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We had parties. Like it was the whole thing of like, oh, we're watching the Oscars and we got to get all the yummy food and sit down, and it's a big deal. That was not
a new
this year.
Experience for me when we did that. I was like, "We're what?"
I bet, right? You didn't even used to watch them, right?
Never. First time I think I watched the Oscars was when you were working and you came in dispatch and turned it on. And I was like, okay, like, oh yeah, I've heard about these.
Right. Yeah. This year was completely different. I had no idea when they were. I had no idea who was nominated. I think I've seen one of the best pictures, or I have no idea. I don't even know what anything was. So I have no reference point for the Oscars this year until Monday morning after the Oscars. And I started to see some stuff on social media that something had happened involving Will Smith. I'm a big fan of Will Smith. It was incredibly easy to find on Google. Actually, I just went to YouTube and I searched Will Smith, and immediately everything just starts popping up.
You searched Will Smith or Oscars?
Just Will Smith.
Oh, I thought, okay.
Yeah. And maybe I did just search Oscars.
I thought you said you just searched. When you told the story the first time, because you were like, oh, the Oscars were on, and you just searched Oscars. And that was the first video you saw.
That was the first video that popped up.
What? What happened?
So to give you context of what happened, Chris Rock is hosting the Oscars. And part of what the Oscar host does is banter back and forth with the audience. It's a long-standing tradition in the Oscars where they'll comment on the people that are in the crowd. It's kind of like some light roasting that takes place, and that's just super common. It's literally every year of the Oscars. That's what happens is the hosts get up there and they talk to the celebrities that are down there and make fun of them in some way, shape, or form. And typically it's very lighthearted. And it's not even necessarily always making fun of them. It's just acknowledging the famous people that are in the room with all the other famous people. So that's what Chris Rock was doing. He was doing exactly that. He was commenting right before this incident with Will Smith. He had made some comment about Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz. Do you know who those two people are?
I know who Penelope Cruz is.
Javier is No Country for Old Men.
Okay.
He played the bad guy in No Country for Old Men.
Are they together?
Yeah.
Are they married?
Husband and wife.
Oh, look at that.
Right. So he shifts up from Javier and Penelope and starts talking about Will and Jada. Jada Pinkett Smith is obviously Will Smith's wife. And they're sitting right there in the front row because Will is up for Best Actor for King Richard. The Richard Williams, that's his name, hence King Richard. It's the Venus Serena picture, if you're not familiar with it. It's a good movie, actually. We watched it. Yeah. So if you're nominated, then you kind of get, you're a big deal. You get front row. You're kind of on camera a lot, and, it's a big deal that you're there. And I think King Richard was also nominated for Best Picture, so it was a big Oscar film this year. He makes a comment. I don't even remember what he said. He said something initially just acknowledging Will and Jada, and then he made a comment about Jada in regards to... The joke was that she would be, or he was excited to see the sequel to...
Is it appropriate to say the joke?
I think so.
You think so?
I mean,
okay.
I'm just...
retelling
the story of how it happened.
You saw what happened last time somebody said that, so
I think we're going to be okay.
All right.
So he makes a comment about Jada Pinkett Smith starring in G.I. Jane 2. So if you're not familiar with G.I. Jane, that was a movie back in the early 2000s with Demi Moore, where she played a woman who went through Navy SEAL training. And part of the big
I went through hell to get through Navy SEAL training.
Yeah, she had to go through Hell Week and everything. Yeah, of course there was more to it, babe, but it's not a great movie.
It's okay.
Right? It was a fine movie back in the day, but it doesn't hold up with time.
I haven't watched it.
And
it's since back in the day. Back in the day, I liked it.
One of the big deals about the movie was Demi Moore shaved her head for the film, because there's a scene in the movie where she just says bag it, and she shaves her head off so that she can go through the training easier. So that was a big deal back in whenever that movie came out. Fast forward to this joke about G.I. Jane 2. Jada is got a shaved head. So the joke ensues, everybody laughs, and they show Will and Jada in the audience. And they're laughing initially because I think it took a minute for them to realize what the joke was. And you're just kind of doing that obligatory, ha ha ha, we always laugh at whatever the guest says because we're on the Oscars and we might be on camera.
Yep.
But then you see both of them register the joke and they shift. And you can see that it had some impact and not in a positive way.
Yeah.
Camera goes back to Chris Rock. He's continuing to talk, barely gets anything out and starts laughing some more. And the crowd starts laughing some more. And you realize that Will is walking up on stage. One of the things that happens a lot at the Oscars is just funny antics. So oftentimes there'll be what appears to be craziness ensuing during the Oscars when really it's just a bit. It's just part of the show. It's something that they have obviously pre-planned. And I mean, that's super common in the Oscars. So it kind of appears that that's what's happening. And everybody's laughing and chuckling and thinking that this is just part of the show. Here comes Will Smith up on stage. Oh, what are him and Chris Rock going to do? What Will proceeds to do is walk right up to him and smack him in the face hard. You haven't watched it. Right.
No, I was sitting next to Asher because it's even like trickle down like to him. He's seeing things and like he's showed other videos. So I oversaw like a clip of it on TikTok or what he was going through, but it's not something that I want to watch.
Yeah. So he walks right up to Chris Rock and hits him in the face hard. Yeah. He hits him with an open hand. He slaps him, but it is a really, really hard slap. And he then turns, he doesn't say anything at all. He just walks right up and slaps him in the face, and he turns around and walks back down and sits down. He's right on the front row, so there's only about, I don't know, there's not much distance between the two of them. And obviously everything kind of stops. Chris is obviously shocked, and he's trying to like gather himself to continue with what he's doing, but this crazy thing just happened, and you can immediately tell that it is not part of the program.
Yeah.
And during the regular broadcast on ABC, they immediately cut. They don't end the show, but they cut the audio.
Yeah.
Because it's on a delay. So they cut the audio, and you can see Chris and Will having some words back and forth. And then the audio picks back up and the show continues. So I went and watched the unedited version of it. And Chris is kind of like befuddled for a minute, doesn't know what to say. And you hear Will sitting down in the audience, and they turn the camera to him and show him.
Yeah.
And he is, I'm not going to get it exactly verbatim, but he's basically yelling at him and swearing at him to not say his wife's name. So like, don't let my wife's name come out of your mouth, or get my wife's name out of your mouth, or something like that, to that effect. But he is very much in that moment of anger and rage. And he's got that type of energy where he's now, the room is silent, right? However many people are present. And it's hundreds, maybe even 1,000 plus people in this auditorium. And he has commanded the entire space. I mean, I'm presuming, but it felt like it watching it, right? Because he's yelling and he's swearing. And he's basically telling Chris Rock, don't you fucking say my wife's name, right? And Chris is like, dude, it was a G.I. Jane, like it was a G.I. Jane joke, right? It was a joke about G.I. Jane. And then it just kind of, you know, Will says a couple more things, and then Chris is like, this is something like, this is the best night of television or something, basically acknowledging like, oh my God, this is a crazy thing that just happened on TV.
Yeah.
So that's the event.
Yeah.
Initially. Right?
Okay.
I mean, that's what happens at the beginning or at some point along the way during the Oscars.
Yeah.
At the end of the night, Will Smith wins the Academy Award for Best Actor for King Richard. He proceeds to get up and give this acceptance speech that was very emotional. He's obviously wrought with emotion. He's visibly crying. I mean, at one point they cut the camera to the crowd because he's got all sorts of...
He's crying.
He's crying hard as he's trying to continue to talk and express everything. And so that's kind of the contrast of what took place that night. Now, it's so easy to just chalk all of that up to whatever your initial gut reaction is, right? Will Smith is wrong. Maybe Chris Rock is wrong. There's another caveat. Part of the issue, and who knows? I don't know, and I'm sure Chris Rock obviously knows, but Jada is diagnosed and has propecia. Is that what is that?
I thought it was alopecia.
Alopecia, yeah, which is apparently an autoimmune issue, an autoimmune disease that affects your hair and can oftentimes cause hair loss. So she has that medical issue. So Will is reacting based off of that.
I might be saying it wrong.
Right? Alopecia?
Yeah. I think it's important to check
Propecia
this
is
one.
the medication that you take if you have hair loss. I think alopecia is the thing we're talking about. So that was kind of the big issue, I mean, it's well documented that that's what was so triggering, was essentially Will took it as Chris making fun of his wife and her medical issue, which I'm sure is difficult, right? I have a lot of compassion for her.
Are you familiar with
all the effects of it?
Uh-huh.
No. Are you?
I'm somewhat familiar.
Share with me what you know.
So there's different forms. There's there's where you get it partially, where you get it totally, or universally. It's like totalis, universalis, or something
loss.
like that. So it can start off with like the partial version. This is just like a little bit of a take on what I know. Okay. So like there's a lot more to it that I'm sure that I'm going to be able to give here. But it starts off, if you have like the partial, is just like patches. You'll have just like patches of your hair fall out. And like we're aware like how that can be a difficult transition thing, especially in a child. When you're going to school with like patches of your hair that is falling out in different areas, and it can get worse. So instead of having all these patches, it gets to where you lose all of your hair. You might have like little tufts. So then you have like, you go from having all this long hair, or however your hair may be, to having little tufts. And then it can go as far as to be a total body hair loss, where you don't have eyebrows, you don't have eyelashes, you have no hair whatsoever. And can be very, very affecting on your emotional body. Right? There's like, I know we have like here in, the next town over, there's a little boy that was 12 and took his life. And there's another one that I had heard. I don't know what his was, but this girl she had it. She was bullied so hard. 12. These are 12-year-olds. And then she took her own life because of how cruel people were. So whether you're a kid going through losing your hair, an adult going through, I'm not saying it's harder for women or men, because there's so much that's tied into it. I would have a really hard time. I would like to say I wouldn't. But like I had a meltdown about not having makeup on the podcast the other day.
Yeah. So
it is something that takes a toll on your emotional body and your self-esteem and how you present to the world. Some people wear wigs to hide it, and they feel like they always have to hide. And what if somebody finds out? And others embrace it to just really beautiful. So that's what I have of it. I've only met one person that I'm aware of that has that, but I know just that. So I think, that would, if I probably wouldn't be wanting to joke about that with somebody. Right. If they were going to use that and like try and joke with that would be hurtful.
I can only imagine, right? I mean, it's like anything else where it's that's
just what I know.
This is what Google says. Alopecia, sudden hair loss that starts with one or more circular bald patches that may overlap. Alopecia occurs when the immune system attacks hair follicles and may be brought on by severe stress. So it's an autoimmune issue, an autoimmune disease. And like you said, I mean, I'm sure it had massive impact on her. And I can only imagine the level of stress, as well as trying to like get prepared to go to the Oscars, right? And your husband is in the spotlight, and you're going there, and you're, sharing that whole experience and doing everything on top of, I gotta sneeze.
You can go for it. I didn't know she had it. Your sneeze went away?
I did.
I thought it was a choice. I thought her hairstyle was a choice. And I was like, she rocks it. She looks gorgeous. I had no idea that it was a choice that was made for her.
Right. Yeah. I didn't know that it was an issue that she had and that she was dealing with. And here's where we get into the area of assumptions, right? I'm going to make some assumptions.
I'm ready.
I don't think Chris Rock knew either.
You don't think he knew?
I don't.
Okay.
I think he thought it was a G.I. Jane joke.
But you don't think you think he thought that she chose, like
Correct.
that was a hairstyle that was a choice,
Correct.
Not a choice.
Yeah, because I've seen her with a shaved head before, right? She's had roles. I mean, I've seen that before, where she's had a shaved head. Mm-hmm. So there's a chance that he didn't know. Obviously, there's a chance that he did know. Mm-hmm. We don't know. Also, at these events, and you brought this up too, there's a group of writers that write for the host. So they have a bunch of people writing jokes. So there's a chance that it's not even Chris Rock's joke. He's just
reading off.
He's just reading off stuff. None of those things are excuses.
Yeah.
None of this stuff is excusing any of the behavior. On the surface, we have two issues. Mm-hmm. First off, violence is never the answer.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not advocating violence ever. I just never, ever, ever do.
Yeah.
In my mind, there is only one time that violence is acceptable, and that's to protect life.
Yeah.
And then it has to be the last option, the very last option. When I was a cop, it was something that I wouldn't even think about when it came to using my gun in a violent way that could potentially end somebody's life. It was so much of a last option that it was like I would do everything else up until that point.
Yeah.
So I'm not a proponent for violence at all. Even in situations when you're incredibly triggered, even in situations that are dangerous, I just don't ever think that it is needed.
Yeah.
And I think it only perpetuates more violence. So that's a major issue first and foremost. And then you have Chris Rock making fun of somebody.
Yeah.
Right? That's another issue. Those are kind of two separate things.
It was, yeah. Sorry.
Depending on where you're on the aisle as far as severity, I think they are of the same damage.
Yeah.
I think that I think they have the same level of impact. And we're going to get into that a little bit. So yeah. I don't know what Chris Rock's intention was.
Yeah, it's like it's the Oscars.
Exactly.
It's a celebration. It's not like that stupid roasting show that the whole point is this. Like, you're going on it for these, which is ridiculous anyways.
Right.
But yeah.
So it could be just a joke trying to do his job as the host. Or, and this is, so I watched this event and it really upset me.
I know, I won't.
I really like Will Smith. And I've followed him like in the last 2 years, I think since 2020, he came out on social media and really started, he literally I don't know if that's when he started social media. It may have been when he started his Instagram account, but he really started putting out a lot of content online. I started following a lot of it. And he wrote a book that came out last year. That's like his memoir, his tell-all kind of book of his life.
I didn't know he wrote a book.
Yeah, he wrote a book.
I have not read that book. I did not know.
He did that movie King Richard, which was a really big deal for him.
It was a good movie.
He had a bunch of stuff that went on and took place, as well as like him and Jada have been in the spotlight their whole relationship.
Yes.
Because they're both movie stars. But they've also been in the spotlight in regards to their relationship. And they've had a lot of, she has a show on Facebook, the Red Table Talks or something like that.
Something like
they did some episodes where they talked openly about their relationship. And I mean, they're like everybody else, right? They're not immune from the life's issues that we all face, that you and I face and deal with. And they kind of do something similar. They share about it and they talk about it. So I have a lot of compassion for what they're going through, as well as kind of the level of scrutiny that they're under, right?
Yeah.
You and I aren't under that type of scrutiny yet.
You're not.
POC we're not going to be. But so I know more about Will Smith than I do Chris Rock. And when I see this event take place and unfold, I'm immediately kind of twisted and torn because it's disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was watching the unedited version of it made me feel like a little kid when your parents are fighting in the other room. It was like suddenly everything stops. It was really awkward. And, you know, like nobody knew what to do. They didn't even cut the camera. Like it was just really weird and awkward. And it made me feel really uncomfortable just watching the YouTube video of it. And I started to really look at and think about it from this new perspective that I've been trying to kind of look and think about everything, of the shadow of things. And what is the undertone and the shadow of this event? And not only what is it mirroring for society and kind of the current state of society, but also for me personally and kind of what I'm going through. And then I thought about it too from the perspective of each one of those men, right? From Will and the shadow that Chris Rock may be representing for him. Keep in mind, all Craig's assumptions, right?
You
and
get to
then
have your
vice versa, Chris Rock, right? And so some things that I started to think about. Chris went through a pretty public divorce several years ago. And I mean, he's one of the greatest comics of all time. And he was at the top of the comedic level, right? It was the greatest comic of all time. One of. And when he went through his divorce, now I'm not certain, I should have Googled before the show, but I'm almost certain that part of his divorce was due to infidelity. And his wife took a large portion of his or their money, right? It's not to say it's his money. And so he had to go back out touring and go back out and start working again as a stand-up and doing
That's what it looks
clubs
like here,
and stuff like that.
according to Google.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that Chris Rock has kind of been in for the last, decade. And then you've got Will, whose career has had multiple ups and downs. And same thing, his relationships. I mean, he's always been, in my mind, somebody that has been, I think, honest about the realities of his life to some extent, right? At least what you see and what's portrayed and what you know, interviews and things like that. But watching him since he came out online on social media, he did a whole YouTube series where it documented him trying to lose weight. He got really heavy during 2020, which obviously I could relate to, right? 2020 was like the heaviest that I ever got in my life. But he documented all of it and the struggles of all of it on top of writing this book where he really was going back, dealing with all of the stuff from his childhood, from his dad, from his mom, from his upbringing, just dealing with all of it, as well as trying to, there's a, in that YouTube show that he did, there's a scene where he sits down with his kids and reads through portions of the books with his kids. You talked to me
about that.
Right? And it's like, man, that is hard work. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Will Smith and all your kids are famous kids as well, right? You got Jaden and Willow and sitting down, going through your shadow and the difficult things that you've had to experience, as well as the mistakes that you've made as a father and as an adult with your grown children sitting there across the table from you. That's hard work. I don't care who you are. So I had a lot of respect for him and a lot of respect for what he was doing, as well as what he was sharing and portraying. I think it is very beneficial for the world to see. Mm-hmm. So I was very excited about it. So I know all of this about him. And then this movie, King Richard, was a big deal for him because the Venus sisters, not the Venus sisters, the Williams sisters, Venus and Serena. I'm also fans of theirs.
Yeah.
This is a little known fact that doesn't get talked about often on the podcast, but Craig grew up playing tennis. I'm a state champion tennis player. And when I was in high school playing tennis was the exact same time period that the Williams sisters were coming up. So I was following all of it as it was happening. I was watching them play the US Open and all these different Grand Slam tournaments. And so I was really excited to watch that movie. And I remember their dad. I remember seeing him in interviews. He was a staple with them, right? Obviously, we know that from watching the show. So I was excited to see all of this. So the Williams sisters kind of had their story that they chose Will Smith to tell, which was an honor.
Yeah.
And so he took it as that and took it as a big responsibility. And he also talked a lot about the young actresses that played Venus and Serena. I don't know if it was their first film but obviously it's their first major film. And he also took it upon himself to be a role model and a support and a help and this loving guide for them as well during this. It's a crazy thing to make a blockbuster movie that gets nominated for an Oscar. So he had a lot that he was placing on his shoulders. And I'm 100% certain that we don't know all of it, obviously. Right?
Probably there might be a little bit.
Right? Probably a lot of it.
Yeah.
So the level of stress that he's under while he's sitting there trying to smile at the Oscars is unreal.
It's a little bit.
Right? And when you add in the issues that his wife is facing and dealing with, right? They are soulmates. They've talked about it. They've talked about the beauty of their relationship, and they've talked about they are truly, I believe, they're similar to us. They're one of those couples that are standing next to each other through it all.
Yeah.
So his heart is also coming from that place of loving his wife, protecting his wife.
Absolutely.
Right? Rightfully so.
Yeah.
So Chris Rock just managed to, float down and place this one little joke that was like the thing that broke the dam.
Yeah.
And we see Will Smith explode in shocking fashion.
Right.
That nobody could have even that you place that bet in Vegas for the Oscars, nobody would have won that.
Right.
Like, that's insane to think that's what's going to happen.
Totally out of character.
Totally out of character. And a lot of what he has been talking about over the last few years and all of his book and his work and his social media and everything is like just love and really wanting to like spread love. And so you have such a polarity there, right? Love and violence.
Yeah.
And it immediately made me start to think about the episode that we did, I think it was the Man Box.
Okay.
A few episodes back, where we were really questioning how can I be a protector without violence?
Yeah.
How can I be a protector? Is being a protector a healthy thing? Is there a healthy way to do it? All these kind of questions I've been swimming in myself and trying to figure out for myself. And then I see this thing play out in front of me. And I think too about the shadow for Chris Rock, right? Whether it's subconscious or conscious, he's got an image in his mind. Maybe he doesn't. This is Craig's assumption. But he's obviously feeling something from his divorce from his wife.
Yeah, maybe is there something about the way he treated his wife that he figured a wife was a safe target?
Right.
That would have no consequences?
Or a woman is a safe target.
A woman is a safe target.
And he sees Will Smith and Jada, who
have a great relationship.
Great relationship.
Even though they've got their shit,
kind
but
of
they
this
work through their
idealistic power couple in Hollywood, right? And I don't know if Chris is in a relationship. I don't know anything about Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Other than the little bits
he's a
that I've
comedian.
shared. He's a comedian.
Got a divorce.
He's a funny comedian. I do like Chris Rock. So there's part of me that sits there and thinks about the undercurrent and the subconscious and the shadow of what's playing out. And also just that dynamic of poking fun at somebody in a joking manner. And that happens all the time. We talked about that on the last episode where we talked about social media and how people, make a living off of making fun of other people with fail videos and
we did
roasting
talk about
people.
that.
And this whole concept and idea that that's just okay is something that I think
needs to change.
Has to change.
Yeah.
Because it's not okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you know what I mean? You never know what people are going through.
Yes.
You never have any clue at all what people are experiencing behind closed doors or even just in the recesses of their mind and in their heart.
Yeah.
And I'm certain, I can't imagine that Chris Rock knew that she was struggling with that. Or if he did know, he definitely didn't take it into consideration from this compassionate place, because I don't think he's a mean person, right?
He might be.
He might be. He might be an asshole.
He might not be, but he might. Is it something that he didn't even fathom?
Right.
Or is it something that he just had zero compassion?
So I think that is something that has to be looked at in culture and in society, that it's just no longer okay to make fun of people.
Agreed. Doesn't matter where you're coming from, just don't do it.
For a punchline, for a joke, right? And there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum of jokes, right? And that joke was hurtful, and who decides where it falls on the spectrum?
Right.
Right? Is it okay to tease people a little bit? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think we just need to be done with it.
Yeah.
Because like I said, you just never know.
It can be very, very painful.
Right? There's times where you and I tease each other. And it's the same thing that we teased each other about yesterday, but today one of us is in a different place and it hurts.
Yep.
Right? And then immediately it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Right? Because yesterday we made the joke and it was okay, and today it's not. That doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. That just means you never know where people are at. So in lieu of hurting people and causing people pain, how about we just stop making fun of people?
Yeah.
Period. Like, that's it.
It's not saying everything has to be serious, or like it gets to be lighthearted.
There's plenty of other things that are funny.
My point is that's one of the things is like, oh, just like funny. Like you said, you take a joke, have to be so serious.
Yeah.
Like there is so much, there's a big ocean to choose from on what is funny.
Making fun of people is the lowest hanging fruit for comedy, right? First, it's making fun of yourself, because we all have terrible self-images of ourselves and we're degrading. So that's the easiest thing to do.
Go watch Hannah Gatsby.
The next easiest thing to do is to make fun of somebody else. That's the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah.
So let's just not do that anymore, right?
I agree.
And let's see what it does to comedy. Let's see how it changes and evolves comedy. The next thing. Violence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's people that think Will Smith is totally in the right.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that thinks he's totally in the right. Right? There's a part of me that can relate immensely to like wanting to defend and protect my wife.
Yeah.
And wanting to physically hurt other people because of what they've said or what they've done to my wife. I can relate 100% to that. I have that inside of me. I have had to face that head on over the course of our relationship. There has been times where I have very much wanted to do exactly what Will Smith did.
Yeah.
But I didn't. That doesn't mean I'm a better person. That just means in the moment I made a different decision than he made.
Yeah.
Right? Who knows if I would have been pushed. What day? Exactly.
That, yeah.
Who knows what could have been going on.
Just right before that.
Right. The level of stress that Will is under at that point. Right.
And that's just from what we know.
Exactly. Who knows what else has been going on.
Not defending it, but like there's more to the story.
Yeah. There's a difference between, you're right, I'm not defending it. Neither of us are defending it. And there's a difference between acknowledging that it's a mistake and he's a human.
Yeah.
And all humans are suffering in some way. Right? Almost every day. And even the people, like I would argue that suffering is just a part of life. It doesn't have to be your life, meaning all things, but it's an aspect of life. And we are all suffering in some way. And the idea that we can't just approach everybody looking at them from that perspective of that person is suffering, that person is going through something that I can't even fathom.
Yeah. Everybody's had a worse day, just not everybody has their worst day on video at the Oscars.
Yeah.
You know,
and now that event is going to basically color the rest of Will Smith's career. Right?
Yeah.
And truthfully.
And there's the part like I'm saying this stuff and we talked about before, where how funny is it that I am so like, I don't know what the word is, desensitized to violence to a point where I'm like looking for ways to defend him and give him the benefit of the doubt.
Give Will?
Yeah. Is it like at the end of the day, like he even acknowledges it, right? Like there's apologies. He's like, this was wrong.
He issued an apology on his Instagram, right? Like all celebrities do.
Like all celebrities do. But like there's a part that when you just stop and look at it, like there was it doesn't matter. Like there was no reason for that. There's no excuse. That
Correct.
was absolutely uncalled for.
Yeah.
Not saying Chris Rock was in the right. Like he was completely out of line. Everything that went on was like that. It was just, they're like, I cannot believe I did that.
Right.
How did that happen? How did I make that choice? Everybody's got one.
And I'm sure both him and Chris are in the same boat. Like I'm
Yeah.
sure they both went home that night and they just thought,
Oh my God.
what the hell? How did that? What? I can't believe I just did
Right?
that just happened. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure Chris Rock didn't want that to happen. Obviously that wasn't the plan. And if he, you know, hey, you say this joke, this is the result.
Have
We're
you
not
seen
saying
anything
that joke
from him?
No, I went to his Instagram.
Yeah.
I mean, going to Instagram doesn't mean anything, but
Yeah.
I didn't, after watching everything kind of, when it happened, and I started talking to Steph about it on Monday and everything,
I was like, I'm Steph.
it jacked me up and I had to kind of step away from it. So I haven't really gone and seen any more of the fallout other than all the jokes.
All the jokes. Again.
All the jokes.
Yeah.
Everything is
That's
now
what Asher was
meme.
seeing. They were like doing funny stuff.
Everything is a meme. Everything is a joke. Everything is taking this situation that is really
Not funny.
a mirror of our culture.
Yeah.
And
It's showing people in pain.
right, you have hurt people hurting people.
Yeah.
That's exactly
That's
what this
what it is.
situation is.
And then they just turned it
And
into
they
a joke.
just joke about it. And they, it's, and we're doing the same thing. We're not joking about it,
Yeah.
but we're capitalizing on this to speak about it, but hopefully from a different perspective than maybe you've heard, because the
Yeah.
reality is there's so much here if you really look.
Yeah.
Right?
Are
You
you
can
gonna look?
relate to Will. You can relate to Chris.
We've
You
all
can-
said that
right?
joke, that thing, that being
hurt
funny,
people.
that yeah.
I thought about that so what's Chris Rock up there mirroring for Will Smith, right? Will Smith's a funny guy, right? He's got a lot of jokes. I mean, it's safe to say that he's at some point said something inappropriate about somebody
Right.
that hurt their feelings. Maybe he still does in his
Maybe he
personal
still
life. I don't know. These are assumptions, but that's the mirror. That's the shadow. That's the way that it works. What you are struggling with inside is going to be front and center in front of you.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what happened. I think Chris Rock got mirrored this pain and sadness that he has because of his relationship and the way that it ended. And he's seeing this thing that he wants, this couple that he wishes he was, right? This power couple in a sense in Hollywood or whatever. Massive assumptions here. I don't know if Chris Rock does any of this. And then you've got Will Smith, who sees Chris Rock up there as the stand-up hosting the Oscars and making fun of people. So you have your mirror, you have your shadow, you have the stuff
bringing their
inside of you
skeletons to the party.
that you don't want to look at right in front of you. And then you've got Jada, right? Bless her heart and what she's going through and experiencing. And then if you just zoom out from those three people and their experience of it, think about how that is reflecting something inside of you.
Yeah.
I've made fun of people.
I
I've
can
said
see every
hurtful
aspect
things,
of it.
right?
Yeah.
I've said really hurtful things about people before that have really hurt people's feelings. And I've wanted to hurt people.
Yeah.
I've wanted to be violent with people. I've wanted to knock the shit out of people before for things that they've said.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of different things, right?
Definitely been the
And
butt
I've-
of the joke.
I've been the butt of the joke as well, where I'm suffering from something and I'm going through something that gets made fun of by somebody else and it hurts.
Yeah. Usually you laugh it off too. Like
do.
you're laughing so they don't see that, like, oh my God, that just hurt. It's like you have that whole society thing, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me.
Yeah.
It's like words can destroy me. Words hurt.
Right.
That whole thing where you're not supposed to show, like, shoving those feelings. You're not supposed to, like, that makes you weak. You're supposed to be above what's
That
wrong.
statement is what I thought about.
Is it okay? Tell
The
me.
sticks and stones, right? Can hurt me, but sticks and stones,
May break my bones, but words can never hurt
right?
me.
Yeah, that's just
Words can
coping
destroy
mechanisms.
me. Yeah. It's like
that's
that.
just what we tell ourselves. That's the mask that you wear to put on the front
It's
when
the
in
mask that
reality is
you're taught.
right.
You're like, those are
Suck
just
it up.
words. Words can't hurt you.
Yeah,
Those are just words. Don't listen. Those are just words.
words hurt more than sticks and stones.
I heard a beep.
Everything's fine.
Okay.
Do we just bleep something out?
I don't know. Like I'm familiar with both.
Right.
I'm familiar with both.
And they both have
they both cut.
Safe to say they both can hurt, right?
They both do hurt. They both hurt. When you have that assumption of like, oh, you're not physically hurting somebody, you're just, so you're not really abusing them, like bullshit, that emotional, those words hurt. Words hurt. Words have power. Words are powerful.
Right. And they'll use them too, right? Everybody knows that words are powerful. Mm-hmm. And, you know, your voice, and there's a reason that we have freedom of speech and all this stuff. But yet, they're not that big of a deal.
They're not that big of a
deal. If it hurts your feelings,
that's your fault.
Right. That's your fault. You need to get tougher.
I was just making a joke. It was just a joke. Can't you take a joke?
Right.
Got to turn everything so serious. Oh, everything's dramatic. Yeah. Everything's about you.
That's like, a big issue in culture.
It is really big. It's like, no, that hurt. Yeah. There's accountability here. What you said, if you didn't mean to hurt me, then okay, take accountability for that. Let me know. Make amends. Because I'm telling you, that hurt. Like, you don't always get the message of somebody, you know, coming up on stage. Like, it's just a really sad thing all the way around.
I think so.
Your emotions that you expressed when you were feeling it, when you first saw it, were big. Yeah. And I think that's important to share. Because, like, this is it. Everything has an impact. It has an impact. People, your choices have an impact. Your decisions have an impact.
Yeah. It is. It's a big deal. And I'm really, part of why I wanted to talk about it on the podcast, because obviously this is where we use our words, and this is where we use our voice. And I don't want this incident, because it obviously was world news.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
And it's an opportunity for the world to look at some...
Is it world news, really?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, with all the shit that's going on in the world right now, it's world news?
Of course it is. He's Will Smith. He's an international movie star.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And now we can just either blow by it. Mm-hmm. There's so many times where people look at what happens in Hollywood and says, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Right? It's Hollywood. Who cares? And you're right, to a certain extent, right? Mm-hmm. But it's important to some people, and it's important to a lot of people.
How much does Hollywood get looked at like not real people, too?
Right.
They're famous. Like, they signed up for this. They have this, like, it's like almost their persona. They're like, who they are doesn't matter. It's just who they are supposed to show up as. They're not real people. They're just...
We'll acknowledge that in his acceptance speech.
Oh, yeah?
Where he's like, do you know what I mean? It comes
I didn't
with
see
the job.
that either.
Like, it comes with the territory where you have to be able to take that criticism. You have to be able to take that stuff.
That's bullshit.
And that is bullshit. That is bullshit. That needs to change. Right? The idea that we're all just sitting around criticizing and joking and judging everybody else instead of just literally looking at yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
So this goes back to your, like, how to heal the world.
Right?
Like, start with yourself, your own shadow.
Exactly. If you see, like, this really upset me.
Yeah.
So instead of just not looking at it, or instead of chalking it up to celebrities and, you know, picking a side, and instead of doing all of that and deciding who was right, and then now I'm on Team Will or I'm on Team Chris, or, you know, stupid Hollywood, fuck Hollywood, you know, instead of just
why are we even caring about this? It's just like bullshit.
Instead of doing that, look.
That's beautiful.
Just look at what you're feeling. Look at what it brings up inside of you. See, if you side with Will, ask yourself why. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's okay to hit people? And if you think it's okay to hit people, why? My guess is you were probably hit.
Yep.
Right? It's probably almost certain that you were hit if you think it's okay to hit people. And then you got to go back to that time period when you were hit. And then you got to imagine yourself more and more and more and more. And
you're on to this, like what you're saying right now.
Right?
Like, yes.
So Chris Rock, because do you remember that show that came out? They did a satirical take of his childhood, right? The Chris Rock show that was Everybody Hates Chris, I think was the name of it.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that.
He was so that was, I think, loosely based on his life.
Okay.
The title of that fucking show is, I think, Everybody Hates Chris.
Well, that says a lot right there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's probably safe to assume that he became a stand-up as a way to protect himself.
That's like, it seems to be the story over and over again.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Like that has never, like the awareness that I have now as opposed to what I had then, you know, is so different. That never stood out to me. And now I hear that, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. The sitcom chronicles the misadventures of teenager Chris as he grows up in 80s Brooklyn. Chris is surrounded. So yeah, I think now, granted, I think it was loosely based, but he was a producer. He was involved with the show.
It's probably more based than people admit, you know, that loosely thing. So you get that ability to work out trauma without it being a direct light on you. You just get to joke about it.
Yeah.
You get to joke about it because it takes the sting off. Like
exactly.
that's his survival technique.
Exactly.
You joke about it. So I know that survival
he was
technique.
bullied,
I had that survival technique.
He grew up in a really hard way and was bullied and had to use his comedy to survive, to mask, to protect, to cope and deal. And then we have him here as an adult doing the same thing. And what comes up for him?
What happened?
Suddenly he's 10 years old again.
But what you described what happened, and it's the words that people aren't saying. Like, what happened to him?
What do you mean?
When you described like what happened to him on stage.
He got hit. What do you?
You're like, he got physically assaulted.
Yeah.
We witnessed a traumatic event. That was a traumatic event.
Exactly.
And
that's another thing, right?
Yeah.
It was a traumatic
That's what
event.
I'm saying. These are your words. That's what you said, and that's like, go with that. That was important.
It was, and it is. It was. And when you are brought up with violence and you're brought up around violence and you're brought up in a violent home and you see violence on a daily basis, then that's not a traumatic event to you. But the reality is your nervous system, your body, everything is reacting in a fight or flight response. And that is very much a traumatic experience. And that was a traumatic experience for the people in the audience.
Right.
That was a traumatic experience for people watching. If you don't think it was a traumatic experience, I'm not sitting here telling you that you have to, and there's no judgment, right?
You don't have to be traumatized by it.
Exactly.
To acknowledge that for somebody it was a traumatic experience.
Exactly.
For many it was a traumatic experience.
Yeah. And you saw it on Chris.
Yeah.
He was shocked, frozen.
How could you not be? That was
right? Had a hard time recovering. Was like, didn't know what to say. And then Will's down there in the audience, still ripping into him, still threatening him, still like puffed up,
and
ready to go.
And you know he's going to come and physically hurt. You do something wrong now, I mean, obviously, you know he's going to come in and attack you.
There's not security at the Oscars, right?
I guess not. They're like, well, that was
Chan,
your job.
Right?
Shit.
Jackie Chan wasn't jumping down from the rafters to protect Chris Rock, right? There's nothing in between him and Will Smith, who is down there literally cussing and swearing at him, ready to come back up on stage and kick your ass again in front of everybody.
That would be terrifying.
Massively terrifying, especially if you think about Chris Rock's life and growing up. So that's the whole thing.
Right? All of these things.
Yeah, that's the whole thing that I keep trying to, I'm really, really practicing this in my daily life of legitimately, not just from this higher perspective, not just from this like reality of trying to be a better person, but legitimately looking at everybody as a child. Mm-hmm. So I just see everybody, I do the best that I can, and it's hard because there's lots of times where I don't like the people that I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
But literally looking at everybody as like 10 and under.
Oh, that's a good practice. I don't know that.
Because now look at this same situation.
Yeah.
If they're all children.
Uh-huh.
And what do you see?
You see hurt.
You see pain.
You see hurt.
You see scaredness.
Hurt. You want to come in and like soothe and help. Like we're gonna sort this out.
Hey guys, calm down. Let's
like
sit
what happened
down.
Here. Like okay.
Right. If this is a fight on the playground, right? Will's over there trying to protect his girlfriend,
what's going
and Chris Rock's making fun of his girlfriend, and suddenly there's a fight on the playground. What happens? Right? We got to sit down and talk about this, guys.
Talk about this.
You guys were friends last week. What's going on today? Right? Let's talk about our emotions. Let's figure this out. Instead, society just looks at them like the grown men that they are and chalks it up to all of these different things.
Yeah.
And
at the end of the day, it's a joke.
And it's a joke, and it's a meme, and it's something that, like Conan's tweet was, hey, does anybody have a late night show that I can borrow for one night? Because he just wants to get out there and, riff on it. But how much is that just perpetuating the exact same fucking problem? Making fun of people, making fun of hurt people, making fun of people that are in pain, making fun of people that are suffering.
That's the bully mentality.
Yeah.
And it came from both sides, both sides.
Exactly. Yeah.
So much here. So much here.
So much.
I love the way that you were able to express it and like over that and just like that awareness of looking at people like seeing their child, their inner child, their shadows, their wounded. Like that is, that's also really big right now with the new moon and everything in Chiron and Aries, and bringing up like Will Smith was just, anyways, like I just like scattered all over there, went into a little sidetrack, but I'm going to try that.
It's a really hard practice.
Sometimes it's like, I feel like I'm really, really good at seeing the hurt in people, but I haven't been able to take it to that step, because seeing the hurt does, like, I am a human. I would like to say that I have no biasms, but I do. But seeing the hurt in people depends on the hurt that was issued.
Right.
And I can see the hurt in people depending on the offense. And there's offenses that take place that I'm like, that was a bad, then I judge them. I go from seeing the hurt in them to now I'm judging you, and you need to be held accountable because that was really fucked up.
So then think about the bully on the playground.
I can hear that.
Right. Think about Nelson in The Simpsons.
Okay.
Do you remember how big of a bully Nelson was?
I remember.
And then do you remember there was an episode where they went to Nelson's house?
He was like...
Poverty.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't watch The Simpsons as much as you did, I think. I think I watched it, but there's like 5,000 episodes. I don't think anybody could really watch all of them.
Season 12, episode 368.
Right. What if that was it?
But that's the whole thing. If we can just really start that practice of... Yeah.
But also, at what point do you become accountable for your actions? And
that's
you
a good
no
question.
longer,
When do you become accountable for your actions, you think?
I think every day. I think you get... as much grace as you get to make different choices. And that's not like saying like holding you down, but you get to see like acknowledging your own wound, acknowledging your inner child helps you be accountable for yourself.
Right. So then are we still holding people accountable for their actions that haven't been able to recognize that yet, who aren't looking at shadow, who aren't able to see the hurt and pain that they experienced and how they're just mirroring and projecting it outwards?
It depends on the
level of hurt that they're giving.
Yeah.
I think the more hurt that they give means they were hurt worse as a child.
I'm having this is super triggering for me because what I'm hearing you say, and I know you're not saying this, but what it sounds like you're saying is every grown adult that assaulted me from child to adult, you're saying, let's look at their hurt. Right. And I'm like, let's look at my hurt. Like, they've inflicted this. I'm not going around assaulting people. So it's hard to hear that. Like, I know and I can hear it, which is why I'm saying my biasms. I am human and I do have those biasms. And I can't give everybody that same. In a perfect world, I would be that enlightened spiritual being that could view everybody that way. But I'm not Gandhi. I cannot do that. I still have really big hurts that will not allow me to just see the hurt. You know what else? Ooh, that's for another episode. This is a spinoff. I just had an awareness, but we don't need to go into that right now.
I'm obviously not talking about you.
I know you're not saying that, but that's what I was hearing.
I know. And I think that's what society hears.
Yeah.
Right. It's really easy to throw the bad person away. And part of the reason why I have this, I think part of the reason that it's sometimes, not all the time, because I struggle with it too, but part of the reason why I'm able to see it sometimes in some of the worst people is because I've talked to those people. Yeah. When I was in jail and working as a corrections officer, I would talk to the people, right, and hear their stories of what their childhood was like and what they experienced as 10-year-olds. Yeah. And then it all makes sense why they're standing behind bars, right? Yeah. And then if you can see them as the 10-year-old child who is at a party playing Russian roulette with the other gang members and see somebody get shot in the head in front of them. I'm not laughing at that. Yeah. Right? Now suddenly it makes sense why that 10-year-old is stuck in that space and still hurting people.
Okay, I have to say this. I have to say that thing because yes, it does make sense and I see that. There are violent people that will use that as their defense. And I have heard that since I was little. somebody was given that excuse after they just like did some shitty things, then it was a story about how their dad treated them and what they went through. And so instead of like having like, holy fuck, this crazy shit just happened. I need to now caretake you and feel bad for you and understand you because this is the abuse you received. So when I hear that, again, that trigger, I'm like, motherfucker, no, you don't get to use that excuse as a reason to keep abusing people.
So the thing I said the other day.
I'm so triggered. I'm trying not to be.
We'll end on this.
I'm working on forgiveness. I am. There's this really good book I read. I'm just like trying to bring it up because it helps. I even like.
Hold on, babe.
Okay.
We got to pause. Dramatic pause.
Dramatic
for
pause.
the end of the episode. You ready?
Uh-huh.
Narcissism is the love child of trauma and abuse.
Yeah.
So you just talked about the narcissistic person that is going to flip all of that and use it to once again inflict pain.
Yeah.
And that narcissism is birthed from trauma and abuse.
That's true. That's a fucking cycle.
It's a cycle. It's a pattern.
That is a cycle.
And we all just have to start looking at it.
We do. And it is uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable.
Really uncomfortable for like this awareness for me right now. If you're triggered, like this is like, I get you. Like I see you. I get it feel too. You. And I will sit with you in it because if we just like hold on to these triggers as justification to not see it another way, we're doing the same thing. We're doing the same thing. So I've got to sit in this as much as I don't want to. I'm not going to do it by myself. I need help. So thank you. My therapist as well. Like I'm going to need help with this because sitting in this one hurts. But the only way to heal it and come through and to be able to make the difference, because it's your own shadow work. You say that. It's so beautiful. It's your own work that makes the change, is if I have help to go through it. And now I have the next conversation I'm going to go through with my therapist. If she's watching this, she's going to not answer my calls. Just kidding. She's wonderful. She'll probably call me out of the blue and be like, hey, how you doing?
Hey,
she seems to always know when I need to talk.
She's a good therapist.
She'll be like, how you doing? I'm like, actually not so good. She's like, you want to talk? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need to say much more about it. It's a hopefully this is encouraged. I think
there's so much to say about it.
It is.
I'm so grateful that you brought it up.
Look a little deeper, folks, as always, right? Just really look deeper and deeper and deeper. Keep peeling back those layers. And I mean, that's how we literally heal and change the world. And don't let Will Smith and Chris Rock, add more fuel to the fire of whatever division you're feeling inside of yourself. Instead, just use it as the opportunity to get curious about the things you don't want to deal with and the things you don't want to look at.
Don't make jokes about them either.
Yeah, we got to stop joking about people. No more jokes about people, period. Done. No more.
No more adult bullying.
No more adult bullying. Right. And covering it up under the mask of comedy.
Yeah.
That's not comedy. That's bullies. That's hurtful. That's hurt people hurting people.
Yeah.
And if you just want to hide behind the mask of comedy, well,
it's just a joke.
Good. Continue.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody's going to stop you except for maybe Will Smith. That's a bad joke.
That's a joke. We just did it. Jesus Christ. We both did it.
Yeah, we did.
I'm laughing now because I'm nervous. I'm like, I'm sorry. That was a bad joke.
Yeah.
So we just gave you an example of what not to do.
Exactly. Know better, do better.
Yeah.
Peace out.